With Texas in the book, it's time that we turn our attentions to Talladega. But first, we got to recap how much fun we had in the great Lone Star State. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. This is the Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, Texas is in the book. It's Talladega week. Reminder. Don't go crazy. Don't go crazy. Don't go crazy. Don't go crazy.
Don't go crazy.
Especially after Texas, where we had
ourselves
a week, my friend. I'll pull up the card here in a little bit. Obviously, DraftKings wasn't quite as productive, mostly when you go heavy on Kyle Larson and his wheel comes off mid-race. That's usually not a good sign.
Yeah.
So that will kind of explain away that. But I guess, there's a lot of discourse. Obviously, Texas was kind of frustrating. It was really they were on ice skates at points, which is kind of weird, but obviously it's been a good track to us in the past, and it remained a good track to us this week. So what was your biggest takeaway from the weekend?
I find it really interesting that Jeff Gluck's "Was This Race Good?" poll was over 75% yes. And I think a lot of that had to be because of the manufactured drama we had with all of the chaos at the end, when in reality, the racing for the most part was shit. Like, whoever was out front could not be passed, essentially.
Yeah, but it's always funny to me because those polls, obviously, that's probably a broader audience than just gamblers.
Oh,
but
yeah.
If you're asking, it depends on who you're asking, where they had outrights on, how their betting card did. I think for the majority of race fans, obviously the diehards are going to have a little more frustration with the lack of passing, lack of stuff, but chaos, carnage, a chance for overtime, and multiple chances at the win. And it's kind of like those, even basketball or football, where maybe the game's not great for a half or 3/4, but then at the end there's drama, there's excitement, and maybe there's a buzzer beater, maybe there's a last second touchdown, whatever the case may be, pick six to seal it. People are going to remember the end, remember what they saw last, and remember how much fun that part was. And overall,
True.
and obviously for us, when we can look at our betting card here in a second, we're Team Texas, but
I just
take those things with a grain of salt.
I don't know. I think it's exciting that they've created a situation where the vehicles are hard to drive at Texas. Still, that being said, when you have track position and you have clean air there, you can run away with it. I mean, Kyle Larson was the best car until his freaking tire fell off, and then he got mired back in traffic and a couple laps down. We never saw him again because of that. And then, anybody who was in the lead was the leader, and nobody could get to them essentially unless they moved them. So I don't know. It was a good race. I was in a situation where, outside of the show, I had many outright bets. And look, I'm happy Chase Elliott won because I had him 16-1. I got it at Superbook before I left Vegas. So obviously I profited there, but I don't know. I'm hoping we get something different next year with the tires or something at a Goodyear. Maybe the racing is better and we see more passing consistently, but
Brian and I kicking around the idea of recording a special show. Maybe it's during the All-Star break, maybe it's during the off season, but talking about different ways to bet NASCAR and spraying the board versus maybe 2 or 3, high dollar bets. Let us know if that would be something that would be interesting to you. Let us know down in the comments, and we can try and get, we got Chris Wormy, a professional NASCAR bettor, and Todd Furman. We could get some smart people on to talk about unit allocation and ways to bet NASCAR and what makes the most sense. So if that's something you think you'd be interested in, we can definitely try and set that up. So let us know. But let's talk Texas because, so Larson, obviously, he was looking good until he wasn't. It was really popular for the right reasons. Byron, fine. Brad K was great, obviously, getting a second.
But was he really? Like again,
I feel like he was a lot better than maybe Phoenix. I don't think it was a pure luck situation,
I'll agree there. Yeah.
but he definitely benefited, especially from like one of the last incidents right before
Yeah, it was like it was the beginning of stage 3 or something, or maybe it was the end of stage 2 when it was him, Logano, Suarez, and I think Briscoe and maybe one other guy who extended the run, and they got that luck box caution. And to Keselowski's credit, like he was able to keep it up there when Logano, he just kept falling further and further and further back. So yeah, I mean, credit to Keselowski, but again, like he wasn't a second place car from what I saw the majority of the race.
But unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, the betting card and DraftKings results aren't necessarily bet off of who should have been there. It's bet off of who is there. And there's going to be races
Very true.
oftentimes where we get, the luck box ends up screwing us. And if this time it benefited us a little bit, then, obviously great. Obviously we had, Larson's wheel come off. So the gods kind of balanced that out and it didn't really matter. Suarez was great. I think he was a top 10-ish car all day. Obviously gets the 5th place results, so that's even better. But I think he was kind of at least like 7 to 10. Let's look at our other lineups. Tyler Reddick was really, really strong. Obviously started 4th, finished 4th, but had some fastest laps, led 37 laps, was pretty good. Ross, I think, was really strong until the end. I thought he almost I thought he was going to win it on like that 3rd restart. I was a little worried as a Chase Elliott holder. Obviously, KFB ends up finishing in the top 10. Bubba finishing in the top 10 after that last restart where we were like, okay, he's like 12th now. There's no way he gets in there, and all of a sudden he ends up 7th. So that's cool. But yeah, overall, not great on DraftKings. Another Larson lineup. We did the Hamlin thing. Hamlin was good until he wasn't. But I don't know. He.
Oh yeah. Well, like it's really hard to base anything off of what we saw in terms of who was good and who wasn't, and who's going to be good at 1.5s, because it was all track position. Like when Hamlin was up front, his car looked fantastic. When he was a little bit further back, he couldn't move through the field either. So, there's not a lot I think you can correlate with this to any other race.
Yeah, and I think Larson's team was even saying that like clean air is king. So if you can get it, take advantage of it. This lineup I built this, I think Sunday morning, ended up obviously working out. Chase Elliott was awesome. Bubba Keselowski, Suarez, and Carson Hocevar, who we talked a little bit about, ended up pulling that top 10. Obviously Blaney kind of crushed it, or else it would have been even stronger, but he actually looked pretty decent. I don't know if he was ever really a race winning car, but he was definitely like a top 5 contender. And obviously led some laps, fastest laps, all that good stuff. Just ended up having a bad day. But let's go to the coup de grace. Let's go to the beautiful thing that is our betting card, because my lord, we had ourselves a week, Brian Twining. We had ourselves a week, and I don't want to be greedy, but we did talk about, or at least I talked about, doubling down on Elliott a couple times, because that number got north of 20 and didn't pull the trigger, but it's okay. Chase Elliott, your winner.
Go back to somebody when you already have a long number, and then the number gets longer. Normally that's an indication that you were wrong the first time, so it's hard to go back well.
Yeah. Chase Elliott, 18-1, cash it. Byron obviously didn't win. Brad K, top Ford, cash it. Bubba Wallace, under 12.5, cash it. Obviously Suarez has a win, but does get that top 10. He ends up in the top 5. Brad K over Bowman. Bowman was out of the picture early, so we cashed that one. Bubba over Ty Gibbs, cashed that one. Oh yeah, Josh Berry ended up crashing, so that sucked. Bubba top Toyota. He was in the conversation a little bit towards the end, even though he probably shouldn't have been. Blaney over Reddick, nope. But Brad K, top 10. Big bet. Wrote him up in the newsletter, so make sure you're checking that out. Free newsletter. Subscribe. Get in on it. Plus 140. Cashed it. up like 30 units on the week. Incredible week. Your card, Wallace, obviously didn't win. Chase Elliott, 18-1. Cash it. Logano, Bubba under 12.5. Boom. Chase Elliott over Ross Chastain. Chase Elliott top Chevy. And Daniel Suarez top 10. So
hey, I want to say I almost got there with that Hamlin 8.5 number. I just
that was honestly, what actually happens and what bets you make. Just because it didn't win doesn't mean it's a bad bet. And just because you won doesn't mean it was a good bet. I think that was a good bet. And I think, that's why it's fun to have a few different options. So you have chances at the end. I know both of us were a little more gun shy on Chastain. He was obviously there at the end and was very much a contender. So, I don't fault anyone for getting there. But yeah, so up 30 units on the season now. You're up 16 units. Certainly does not suck. It feels pretty good to find form. I think.
And this is where we're supposed to take a bye week, sir.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we're supposed to be very, very.
Yeah, we're gonna be gun shy on Dega. We're not gonna go crazy. I think it's a fun week to dive into some longer shot top 10s.
Yeah.
Take some shots on some potential outrights.
I was just gonna say, and we're here to talk betting the races. Like, I'm not here to talk about, this just was gonna happen. Like, I want to have fun. That's a large aspect to what got us into this and what we're here to do. Like, bring entertainment to the people, give you our outlandish opinions on who's gonna do what, and of course, try to hit the big one.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe a little more gambling than solid advice betting this week, but unfortunately, that's what the super speedways provide to us. But yeah, amazing week on the betting card. So much fun. We got our first Elliott win. One more, which maybe comes this week, gets us a cash on the season-long bets.
Let's go.
I have the 2.5, so I need 2 more wins to get there.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you bet the alt.
Yeah, I was actually looking at those. So I have Elliott over 1.5 minus 120, and then Elliott over 2.5 plus 140. The Buescher under I'm happy with. Need the Hamlin over 2.5. He has 2 wins.
He's got 2, yeah.
So one more and we cash that. Feeling pretty good.
Outside of Logano and Reddick, for me, like I'm good so far. It just Logano and Reddick got to wake the F up.
Yeah. Let's look at futures odds really quick before we dive into this week's race. I was going to do it at the end, but I think it makes more sense just to look at it now. So Hamlin is your favorite, 4.5. Byron, 475. Obviously, you can shop it and find better numbers. Kyle Larson, 5-1. Still feel pretty good about that. Chris Bell, 6-1. Chase Elliott, 9-1, which is basically his preseason price. Truex, Blaney, Gibbs, Reddick at 16, Logano 18, Chastain at 20. Like, what of these numbers, anything jumping out to you as a tremendous value or something where if you're looking to get involved with somebody, they'd be willing to buy at this price?
I still think there's some value on Chastain. Superbook has him at 25-1 right now. I think that's definitely a buy number with how strong he's been at pretty much every track this year, especially again, going back to Texas, like we're not going to see any racing like this for the rest of the season. He was good at Vegas. He's been good at the super speedways. He was good at Phoenix. Like Chastain is going to be there in the playoffs. And so 25-1 is a great number. I don't hate getting on the Elliott train, but I would probably caution to wait after Talladega because say he wrecks and he finishes dead last, like you're probably getting this into the double digits and you can still find him 10-1 at some places as well right now.
Yeah. And I think if you can get double digits, I think it's worthwhile. I think it's the shorter odds that like inside 10-1, I don't love as much.
Yeah.
Even though we bet him at, what did we bet him at? Bet him at 9. But yeah, no, I think your point's good. If you want to try and squeeze out a little bit of extra, but he says it's hard with him because he's so popular. But even Kyle Larson, who looked dominant early, ended up going back out to 5. So maybe you can get some wiggle room, but he could also win this week and make us look really silly. And all of a sudden that number's 6-1. So
Yeah.
But
I
yeah, no,
will
I think
add Martin Truex Jr. to me is like the only guy amongst this group that I would. This is almost a complete no for me. Like he was probably the best car. What was that? Martinsville? Or no, that was Richmond.
Richmond.
But outside of that, where has he been up front to win a race yet?
Yeah.
He hasn't. And so until I see that actually come to fruition, until I see him actually win a race or consistently run near the front on something that isn't a track that he's been extremely successful at in the past, like I have no interest in betting him when you got guys like Chastain and Reddick even who are well behind him.
Yeah, like I'd rather bet Blaney at the same number.
Yeah. More consistent and a larger pool of tracks.
Yeah, because ultimately they have to at least be in the conversation, if not win the whole race at Phoenix. So if they can't produce at Phoenix, it doesn't matter how good their number is.
Exactly.
They have to beat Larson at Phoenix. They have to beat, the best of the best. And we saw Ross Chastain do that last year. That's why his number makes a lot of sense. Truex is fine, but like, I don't know. I feel like if we see some life out of him and he's 7.5 or 8-1, like that's, I don't know. I'd rather do that than.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the same rhetoric about him every week going into a race. Like you can't bet him early until you see what he unloads with.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk this week's race because I think that is where the fun starts. So in terms of outrights, a lot of numbers. We're gonna get some really enticing numbers on some of the longer shots or on some of the shorter drivers like that we're used to betting at 4 or 5 on big race weeks. It's certainly interesting to try and figure out how you want to get involved or if you want to get involved. There is no requirement to bet every single race to unload the clip for every single race. So if you're not finding numbers you love, if
Yeah.
you see, for example, your favorite offshore has Briscoe at 33 instead of 50, and you want to sit this one out, it's fine. It's allowed.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to.
Don't fire on it.
Yeah. So, obviously if you want to have a couple lottery tickets to give yourself a little extra juice, by all means, but don't feel compelled. It's not a requirement. It's a way to, especially if you're trying to make money. Now if you're trying to have some fun and shoot a little, few shots, then go for it.
And absolutely do not, again, I repeat, do not bet anybody in single digits at Talladega. How on earth Caesars expects to receive any kind of handle on Joey Logano at 9-1 is beyond me. There would be no way somebody could get me to place a bet at a super speedway now in single digits.
And you can shop a lot of these guys, like Logano's 12 at Superbook. Look around. You'll find opportunities if you really want to get involved. So Logano's 9, Brad K is 10, Blaney is 11, Bubba is 12, Byron is 12, Hamlin is 12, Chase is 12. I'll cut it off there. Gross week to get to the top of the board. If you're doing it, are you doing it? It's question one. And if not, who is the most enticing option near the top of the board that would make you consider it?
Quite honestly, especially this week, and as I've grown as a better, if people have probably seen on the show here, the only guy I think I would consider inside this market would be the guy I want to cheer for, and that's Bubba Wallace at 12-1. Outside of that, I just have such a hard time getting to any of these numbers because yes, they're all skilled at super speedways, but we saw it at Daytona, we saw it at Atlanta, like crazy shit happens at the end. And, you got the 30-1 guy, 33-1 Daniel Suarez winning Atlanta, or freaking Ricky Stenhouse Jr. last year winning the Daytona 500. So yeah, it's hard to get to these numbers.
Yeah, Blaney is the one for me. And like I talked about in terms of championship futures, that might be the way I like to approach it. Or maybe I split my bet, what I normally bet on a race, 50% or 70% for the race, and then the other half for the championship bet. Bubba's interesting at 12, but I don't know. Like it's hard to bet a lot of these guys, even as compelling as they
Yeah.
can be. At least Blaney has, 3 top 5s in his last 6 trips, has a win, has led a bunch of laps, and has the best average rating. Obviously, rating gets skewed significantly depending on how you finish, but he has definitely been rock solid. As rock solid as you can be at a super speedway. Let's talk Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, Ross Chastain, 18, Chris Bell, 18, Kyle Larson, 18. That's always super speedways is always really interesting. Are these tracks where Larson traditionally isn't amazing?
It's got to be over
And
20 for me. It's got to be 20 or above, in my opinion.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if that exists in market. I can look and see if that is floating around, but I don't hate that. If you can
Yeah, if I
find
got
it.
him at 20, I'd probably fire on it just
And
because
I
he's
know it's
Kyle
funny
Larson.
because some people might be like, "What are you talking about? 18, 20, all the same." It's really not the same.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, DraftKings has it at 20 if you want to fire.
Ooh. Yeah, see, that's pretty good.
Yeah. DraftKings has it at 20. BetRivers has it at 20. So that's why you
Yeah,
shop it. And I
I don't
think
mind a nibble there.
yeah, 20 is fine. I'm good with that. Anybody inside, like anybody between Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson, between the Kyles?
I like Chastain
Yeah, it's the best number on him.
because we know too,
He's
like,
20 at Rivers also.
I mean, he definitely provides a lot more risk because of what he's been talking. Like, he's risk it or biscuit, like, or no risk it, no biscuit for him.
Yeah.
So
Well, when you're betting outrights, that's fine.
yeah, and that's why, like, I wouldn't mind getting there with him again. Even 18 is still a little short for my liking this week because I'm looking much further down the board
Yeah.
at the guys that I'm looking to pepper with.
Yeah, I agree. I'm taking my shots there as well. All right, let's talk 20 to 1 and longer. So we have Gibbs, we have Busher, we have Tyler Reddick, we have Martin Truex, Eric Jones. That's kind of like the 20 to 30 range. Any of those names jumping out to you, or should we just dive into the 30 range?
So yeah, so Eric Jones is going to be one of the most popular bets this week. He's been really good at Talladega. I think he's got 6 top 10s in the last 8 trips here.
And he's 30 at DraftKings, if that is more
Yeah,
impressive.
and that's what I was just gonna say. Like, if you want to bet Eric Jones, I don't hate it, but I tweeted about it yesterday. Why bet Eric Jones at 28 or 30 when you can get a guy driving the same exact car who has equal amount of success in super speedways in the Cup Series for more than double the price?
Yeah. It's certainly a decision. I mean, my pushback would be experience at the track, more reliable driver. We've seen him do it.
I definitely get that.
Yeah. Cindric is 30. Daniel Suarez, we saw him win in Atlanta. Obviously, not total super speedway, but definitely closer. Stenhouse, McDowell, we've seen him do well. He's a good qualifying bet because we saw what he could do at Daytona.
I feel like he has the Grim Reaper following him around, though. I mean, every
Yeah.
week the last
Even
few
last week
races.
where he's like, "Oh, he's back again." He
Yeah.
kind of faded away. Austin Dillon, are people going to convince themselves that he can do something?
Yeah, I'm actually. So that was
Are you
actually
one of
the
the people?
first.
Are you the people that I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was like one of the first numbers that I was like, man, I really don't hate that because normally we see Dylan go off at like 25 or 30. Like normally he's in that Eric Jones range,
But
and RCR sucks.
yeah, I
But
feel
freaking
like
Kyle Busch is 15 to 1.
I feel like the books are like, we'll push these numbers out a little bit just to try and grab some more action because we know they can't win.
So yeah, so the first one that I'm gonna dart throw is Austin Dillon at 40. That's a number I could get behind.
So our buddy iFantasy Race did tweet this out as we kind of keep plowing through the outright board. LaJoy is interesting. Todd Gilliland. Gilliland at Talladega over the last 3 races, 3 for 3, finishing between 7th and 12th. Maybe he's a better top 10 bet, but he's pretty good. Kind of interesting. He's Todd Gilliland, and he's priced at 45. You don't love that. But
yeah, I mean he ran well last week too. He was up there for the majority of the race.
Yep. Average finish of 14. Oh.
And yeah, make sure you're shopping these numbers. So like for instance, Corey LaJoie 40 at Caesars, he's 50 at BetMGM.
Yeah, Gilliland's 50 at Superbook.
Oh yeah, LaJoie's also 50 at Superbook.
Chase Briscoe, I think he's gonna go on the card at 50 is the best number I believe I can get. Yeah, Superbook has him at 50.
We've become the Chase Briscoe stan.
I've been here. You're late to the party, but I've been here the whole time.
Oh, okay. Okay, Marshawn.
Yeah. I've been here the whole time. Yeah, he's going on at 50. I can't help myself.
Yeah, and then I like Ryan Preece too. He's always been somebody that I'm intrigued about at super speedways, and he had that moment. I forget now what track that was at where he flipped a gazillion times and red eyes. I believe that was Atlanta.
Was it or was it here?
Shows you how good my memory is. Oh yeah, it might have been here.
And was it here last year in the fall race where Briscoe was like leading with like 8 to go? Ended up crashing because he couldn't keep his tires on the track or something.
More than likely.
Trying to remember.
And that's the thing about this race is like, I mean, I thoroughly enjoy super speedway racing just because I like the way they move through the field and you can pass and all that stuff. But if I had a large amount of money on people, I would probably have a heart attack watching this, knowing that any wrong move or bad bump into a corner and your day is shot.
You think your buddy at the sports book in Vegas is just spraying the board and betting all these guys?
You're right. Yeah. One of the first guys I ever met who bet NASCAR, he literally bets every single driver somehow or another each week. Like,
that's certainly one way to do it. Not the way I would do it, but certainly one way.
You would need a large bankroll. And as I go into that, down at the bottom right there, John Hunter Nemechek is the guy I was referring to and talking about Eric Jones, who is actually 80 to 1 at FanDuel. And that is a number that I am assuredly betting. I mean, obviously, very small unit allocation here. We talked about this at the beginning of the season. Take your normal race unit allocation and divide it by 4 or 6 now.
Yeah.
Because you have the 6 super speedway style tracks with the 2 Atlanta races, and that's how you determine.
Wins you 800, $5 wins you 400. That doesn't
exactly. Suck. Yeah, because I mean, obviously, this is a long shot for a reason, but Nemechek in his rookie season in the Cup Series, he finished 11th in both Daytona races. And I believe he was 8th in both Talladega races that year. And that was while he was driving the number 38 car for Front Row. So, I mean, he's got experience in the Cup Series. He's performed well here. He's done okay in Xfinity. And so I can't glance over this number when he's in the same equipment as a guy who is one of the most popular mid-tier guys this week.
And if you are into some of these guys and you don't necessarily want to get to them on the outright market, there is some opportunities with things like manufacturer props that you can get to, or maybe even a top 5. Obviously, the payout isn't there. And maybe you split your bet instead of putting $20 on them to win the race, put 10 and 10, so you can at least cash out a little bit if they say get second or third or end up finishing the race backwards like LaJoie did. Yeah. So I've added Chase Briscoe. You've added Austin Dillon at 40 and John Hunter Nemechek at 80. Anyone else that you're excited, potentially considering, trying to figure out how you want to attack them this week?
So I kind of want to bet Carson Hocevar.
See, he's more fun. Obviously, I could see him wrecking like 150 different ways, but I think he would be fun.
You know what? I'm
He's
going to put him on
60
there.
at Superbook.
Yeah, and I think it's the same argument could be made for him that I just made for John Hunter Nemechek over Eric Jones. Like, yes, Corey LaJoie is incredible at super speedways, but I think there's a legit argument to be had that Hocevar has been the best guy in the Spire camp so far this year, and we know he's got a lead foot, and he is not afraid to stick it up in there.
No,
when it comes down to it. So if this comes down to a late race situation where he's riding sixth, you know who's going to be the one that opens up that third lane to try to go for the win, and that would be somebody like Hocevar. So
yeah, I'm just a little worried that happens like at the end of stage 1 instead of at the end of the race.
That would be horrible.
But I'm going to jump on it. He's 80-1 at FanDuel, so I'm
80
jumping
at
on it there.
FanDuel coming in clutch this
Shout
weekend.
out to FanDuel for both having lines at the time we record and for having good numbers on some drivers.
Oh man.
Any of the love for like an SVG, a Hamrick, the Pasta
Yeah,
Man?
no, I don't think Van Gisbergen is going to survive. And then Hamrick was somebody that kind of piqued my interest for a second. Just, I mean,
BJ McLeod to finish on the lead lap. BJ McLeod to finish the race.
Yeah, see, no. BJ McLeod is going to finish the race because he'll probably lose the draft and then just be dry. He'll be racing his own race the entire day. He won't finish on the lead lap, I don't think, but there
Larson's 21-1 here, by the way. It's a $100 max bet, but it is one of their boosts.
Hey. This would be the season that Larson does that.
Especially after losing his wheel last week.
Oh, man. Yeah. Ooh, FanDuel actually has top 10 numbers, too, by the way. Which I saw Caesars took theirs down.
Shouts to FanDuel.
I mean, they're not great.
Of course. You know, beggars can't be choosers. We just want lines. Let's see here. Yeah, it's like they don't give you the same, like they give you better numbers in the outright market, but then like they don't give you that same cushion in terms of finishing position.
Yeah. Hey,
Busher's fine. What's Gilliland? That's what
I was just gonna say, if you're gonna bet a top 10 number, Eric Jones at plus 150. Like if you want somebody that is good at getting top 10s at these tracks, Eric Jones, we already talked about him, is clutch there. So I don't mind getting that, but plus 150 is still a bit short at a super speedway.
Yeah, I'm adding the Gilliland 3-1. That's fine. I'll shop it and see if I can find a better number as lines fully come out. John Hunter at 4.5. Carson Hocevar at 4.5. I don't hate those if you want a little bit of a backup. Maybe you go top 5 instead because the odds of them finishing like 9th are probably pretty low, but you never know.
Yeah.
LaJoy 3.5-1 is kind of fun. Ryan Preece 3.5-1. I don't hate that either.
It's just so, like, we've seen it so many times at super speedways. They could be running 10th at the end, or they could be running 5th at the end.
I mean, we see that every week. They could be running at the end, and then all of a sudden they're upside down or behind the wall or whatever. All right, let's go back here. All right.
Oh, so DK does have top 10s as well, but theirs are even worse.
Yeah, DK likes to screw us on that. Top Chevy, which I think this is a good week to attack the top Chevy market. Obviously, Larson not being a massive favorite. Chastain at 7.5, I think is fun. Stenhouse at 12. Suarez at 14.
I think the Austin Dillon at 18 is a pretty good number.
I mean, that's Austin Dillon. I don't know that I love that. I'm going to add Suarez. It's a good week to have a lottery ticket. not necessarily a good week to make quote unquote smart bets.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that
You want to
there
make
isn't
sure you
much
get paid
research
out.
that can go into making these wagers, by the way.
Yeah, make sure you're getting paid out if you're taking the risk. Okay.
For what it's worth, I found a matchup on DraftKings that I think is intriguing. Noah Gragson is plus 135 over Ty Gibbs.
Yeah. SHR at speed tracks, I like. It's crapshoot track. You take the plus money and take it to the bank. I think it's a good week to look for those matchups that are like 2.5, 2-1, and just take the plus money. And I think if you hit 40% of them, you'll be really, really happy.
Yeah,
John
I'm not
Hunter's
laying any juice on a matchup.
What about John Hunter 15-1 to be top Toyota?
That's too short.
Really?
Yeah. Think about it. If he's top Toyota, he's probably realistically, he's probably finishing.
But like
top
of the
5?
manufacturers, I guess I don't know.
Because
It feels like
let's see what
it
his top
feels like
5
a
number
good
is.
week to be a Ford. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, he's 9-1 on top 5 market, but he's 80-1 to win the race. I would rather just bet him to win and then just not sweat anything else.
Well, yeah, but it could be like put $10 on 80-1 and then 25 on 15, and then if he gets second or third or fourth and he's the top Toyota, then you're pretty happy.
Yeah, but even that I think might be a little bit too rich for me. Even though I've been getting a little crazy of late.
Getting over your skis. Ford feels like a tough market. You feel like if you go there, you might want to be more outrights, but Gilliland at 18 is fine. Briscoe at 16, I think, is fine.
Harrison Burton 40.
Yeah.
Any Cody Ware love? I mean,
you're just like literally throwing darts at that point.
If we have a BJ McLeod versus Ware matchup, I am smashing BJ McLeod.
Do it. Fastest qualifier. McDowell at 12-1. Is that good enough? I don't know. Chastain at 18.
Yeah, but I don't think he's gonna I don't
Cindric
think
at 20.
Yeah,
Busher
that
at
one
20.
I don't.
These are kind of fun.
Yeah.
I think Cindric. I think Daniel Suarez at 30.
That's pretty good.
Although Suarez, I'm looking at his best start is fourth. But most of them are like between 14 and 30.
Well, interesting looking at qualifying we had at Daytona. That was the beginning of Logano McDowell. And then it went Reddick Bell, Elliott, Cindric Bowman, Denny, Hocevar, John Hunter Nemechek were the top 10 qualifiers at Daytona.
Yeah.
Because that's easily the closest thing we're going to get to Talladega, way more so than Atlanta.
Yeah. I think I'm going to do a little digging on poll bets. I'll tweet them out at Notorious KRO on Twitter. Come follow me over there. Anything else you want to look at, Brian?
Is there any props that are interesting?
Probably not.
Oh, you're not going to bet your buddy Chase Briscoe over Ricky Stenhouse, even money matchup?
I mean, don't tempt me with a good time. Stuart Haas versus Trackhouse, 23 versus RCR.
Ooh, Kyle
23-11.
Larson is plus 130 over William Byron in a matchup.
Yeah.
I'm going to add it. Give me all the plus money matchups.
Thinking about taking Cindric over Dylan at minus 140 just to let you know what's up.
Minus 140? Oh, man. Reddick over Keselowski. Oh, that's qualifying.
Yeah.
Ooh, I actually don't hate that. Yeah, there's not a ton of stuff just because, and there's also too, there's not a lot of markets that you really want to be hitting because, a lot of this shit is just going to be random.
What about Ford at plus 180 to win the race?
I mean, that gives you a pretty good amount of the guy. I mean, we got Logano, Blaney, Keselowski.
Yep, Busher. SHR guys.
Oh, yeah. It's really not bad, but I mean,
Get plus 165. Say plus 250.
Plus 180 is not terrible.
No.
I don't know. I'd probably just rather just pepper individual
Plus
outrights
180 to go to overtime.
I mean, we're gonna do that again. The fourth straight week or whatever the hell it is now.
Feels like the week it should happen, so it probably won't. But
yeah, I was just gonna say it's probably not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Just like I'm looking
Chase
at Talladega
Elliott and Ludwig Aberg to both win plus 5490. $20 wins you almost 1100. I don't hate that.
I'm not touching those things.
Look at this shit. Who is betting this? All these matchups at a super speedway, there's no way, even if you like have the best side on all of those.
Yeah.
They're like that it's worth taking a shot on.
$20 bet. That's $20 that could be spent going to the movies or something.
Yeah, that's a donation to the sports book. That's what that is.
Yeah, that is just absurd.
All right, let's recap our cards and get out of here. I have 2 outrights: Briscoe at 50, Hocevar at 80, Gilliland top 10 3-1, and Daniel Suarez top Chevy 14-1. Brian has Dylan at 40, John Hunter at 80, Carson Hocevar at 80, Gragson over Gibbs at plus money at 135, and Larson over Byron at plus money at 130. Anyone you're still thinking about, Brian? Anything you're going to be doing some digging on before we talk on Saturday? Anyone that really is like, I might fire on that, but even prior to practice and qualifying?
Honestly, it might be the Larson outright.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I mean, he dude has won everywhere, every track type. It's just, all that's left to complete the freaking Infinity Stone collection is a super speedway, and he's been getting better. He's been in position a couple of times in the first couple of rows as we come down to the last final lap. So yeah, over 20, the 20-1 number, like that's the spot that I want to get to, and because you could get it at Caesars, is something I'm going to consider as I roll into Vegas sometime Thursday night. I believe we'll get there.
Yeah, Brian will be joining us live from Vegas. I will be homeward bound, but that's okay. Remember, keep yourself in check this week. Don't go crazy. If you want to take a few lottery tickets, go nuts. But I would recommend saving most of your bullets for starting next week.
Yep.
So for Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.